everybody. Welcome to the Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. I'm Sarah Schultz.
And I'm Jennifer Austin.
And Jennifer, what has you fired up today?
Okay, so as I have mentioned like a million times, I listen to a lot of different podcasts. And one of the ones I was listening to this morning while I was doing my workout, because it's the only thing that keeps me exercising, is like listening to podcasts because I hate working out. But I was listening to The Bulwark, and technically I think it was called The Secret Pod. I don't know. They've got a bunch of different pods, whatever. Anyway, it was Jonathan Van Last and Sarah Longwell were talking. And Jonathan, and they were just kind of talking about random stuff, not anything specific. But they were asking each other questions. And one of the ones that Sarah asked Jonathan was like, would you have changed anything along the way that got us to this point in terms of career and life and whatever? And he said that if he knew, years ago, back when he graduated college or went to college and chose his majors, if he knew that we would be in the situation that we are in right now, where he has to get up every day and convince the American people that we are in a crisis situation and potentially losing democracy, he would not have gone into journalism. He would have become like a researcher or something. And Sarah didn't believe him. She's like, nope, I know you would have done it, whatever. So, there's differences of opinion there. But it got me to thinking that I didn't become involved in politics until I was worried that we would lose democracy. Or lose portions of democracy. And so it kind of made me a little bit proud of myself, I guess, and proud of like you and a lot of our friends and a lot of people that we associate and work with, because no, we're not firemen, and I don't want to put us in that same category. We're not policemen, we're not soldiers, none of that kind of stuff, but we are the people that saw a problem and ran towards it instead of away from it. And that just, it made me feel happy and proud and fired me up that like I can continue doing this work, because there are some days where it is hard.
For real. I'm glad that fired you up. I'm glad you heard that. And I also I was looking back at some Facebook memories a couple of weeks ago, and it must have been right before the 2016 election, when I was like commenting on the debates between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And a lot of what I was saying was like, how much I loved my husband because he's hilarious to watch debates with, because his like commentary is just absolutely hilarious. But like I was like posting about that stuff back then, and like, but not doing anything else. And so so I don't know if like I wished that I would have done more before that, or if like it was just a realization that like sometimes there's just got to be like a really big catalyst to like knock you out of your place of like comfort and security to be like, holy shit, I got to do something. Let me just figure out what skills I have to lend to this kind of catastrophe. And God, that's been, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, I don't even recognize my life anymore, right? Like, I don't even, besides, a person who watched political debates and voted, that's all I was. And now it's just a constant kind of conversation among friends. I mean, I have a totally different friend group since then, a completely different, thing that I focus a good chunk of my brain on. So yeah, a lot of differences.
Yeah, sometimes my kids are like, why does everything have to be about politics? And I'm like, because it just is.
It always has been.
There are times when I'm like, we don't have to make this about politics, but I mean, when it really comes down to it, it's I know a lot of people like to pretend that they don't think about it and it's not part of their lives, but it is. You're just right. Ignoring it.
Yeah, or you have the privilege to ignore it because it's not impacting you in a huge way. Well, Do you want to hear what I'm fired up about?
Yes.
I'm still fired up in a wonderful way about the wedding of our friend over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So Elena Smith, she was our very first guest on this pod, and she and her now husband got married 2 days ago, and it was so beautiful. And I'm fired up because I was reflecting on it this morning. First of all, I have, as I mentioned in our one of our many chat groups, I have wedding planning withdrawal because like we were just so connected to each other, this whole group of us that were working to put this wedding on. Um, but also just like how beautiful it was. And I was just thinking this morning about all of the people that were in that space. There were over 200 guests, and it was like there were gay couples, and there were very conservative, like family members of one of them, and there were like literal, like elected, our congresswoman came to the ceremony, a elected Democrat or U.S. congresswoman, and uh, a former Republican state senator who is now an elected county commissioner, and like
Mm-hmm.
how much sort of like that represented this mix of like ideals and all the things, and yet we could all still kind of come together and all agree that like, man, that was an absolutely beautiful ceremony. It was a wonderful time spent together. I don't know. I'm pretty fired up about that because I think I can get in this like uh social media swirl where I start to believe that it is as divided, like it's so
Mm-hmm.
divided, it's impossible. Like I literally don't ever want to like sit down, and break bread with anyone who is not a Democrat or a progressive person. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know, that being in that space was very cool. So I'm fired up about that.
It really was. And like I'm also fired up about that wedding. It was just such an outpouring of love and
Yeah.
friendship, and it was a whole community of people, and it was just really beautiful. They wrote their own vows, which was super important. It was a friend that married them,
Yeah.
and she really talked about community and love and the connection that they have to each other and then all of us. And like I've heard those words before at weddings. It's not certainly not the first time I've ever heard them, but they truly meant something to me
Hmm.
this time because they were true. Like every person there was super
Yeah.
connected to them. They weren't there because it was like, oh, I feel like I have to go to this
Yeah.
wedding. I don't
For
think
real.
any, I don't think anybody felt that way as far as I could tell. And the officiant is one of her best friends,
Yeah.
one of our best friends. So it's like we all knew each other. That community we were talking about was real.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was beautiful and amazing. And like I think I said in our little chat this morning or yesterday that every bit of joy and love and friendship that we saw at that wedding was just a reflection of what those two put out into the
Yeah.
world.
I know.
And that's, that really fired me up and made me feel
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Elena and Michael, if you're listening, congratulations again. It was a wonderful event. Um, so we're going to hold all of that goodness, and we're going to have our big announcement today. So, what's our big
Yeah.
announcement, Jennifer?
Okay, so we've talked about this. Um, and uh, today's the day. We are going to release our Beyond Resistance blueprint, 5 steps to building blue power. I'm just pulling it up on my phone so I can see it. But you
We've been
all will get to see it because I will edit in all these graphics and it'll be wonderful.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, so this is something we've been working on for a long time. We've been teasing this. This is a thing that we're putting out into the world. All of these conversations that we're having about all of the great work we've done here in middle of Michigan in a town literally called Midland, where we've been able to really take a town that was known to be a conservative bastion in the middle of a swing state and turn it reliably blue. And so that's the whole point of our existence in this pod space, is to help other communities find their way to doing similar amazing things. And if we can kind of package up some of this learning and get it out there in the world, that is worth a worthwhile endeavor. And so I have my kazoo. Hold on, let me blow my kazoo to celebrate.
Yes.
I didn't even practice that before I did it.
That was pretty amazing.
I know, thank you. Well, my husband's a music teacher, so if you need a kazoo or you need a, whatever, a didgeridoo or anything, it's literally at arm's length. And so we were looking for a celebration instrument, and I can handle the kazoo.
Yes.
No, we're so excited about this project. It's just one of the many things we're putting out there. But we're going to be releasing it today on our website. Jennifer, what's our website?
So our website is beyondresistancepod.com. There's a lot of stuff on our website. And so you're going to be able to find this blueprint. It's going to be there to view. So it's going to be all pretty on there. You can look at all the pictures. And then it's also going to be available to download as a PDF. We'll have the fancy pretty one with all the pictures on it. And then a one that's a little more printer friendly, because not everybody wants to spend a ton printing color things off of their PDFs. But yeah, so we'll have that ready. And yeah, you want to tell us about like what they're gonna find in it? And I'll kind of, when I put these on you talk and I'll like scroll through them when we show them.
So, okay, so we're also working on a book and obviously this podcast, but we really wanted to start to really kind of synthesize some of the key learnings that we and the rest of our team and community has learned over the last 8 years or so. And we wanted to first put this out as a blueprint in a really digestible way. So it's a 7-page blueprint that really tries to create the right balance between getting into like philosophy and mindset, but also really tactical things that anyone sort of sitting out there in a red community feeling like they would just want to do something should be able to pick up this blueprint and get started doing what our community has been able to do over the past 8 years.
And can I just interrupt for just a tiny second? I just want people to know that for those of you not in the publishing industry, it takes years to get a book out. So even if Sarah and I sat down and spent every minute getting this book ready, it would be like 2 years from now, 18 months at least, before there would be a published thing in your hand. So we wanted to get this blueprint out so that people could start building blue power in their communities now, because we've got a little over a year before 2026 elections, and then a little over 2 years until the 2028 election. So we need to start doing this now. And Sarah will show you, or, she'll talk about that, but there's a timeline at the end that's split into quarters. So it's a great time to get involved with it now, learn it, see what you want to do, make some plans, and then split it out into the different quarters of next year.
Yeah. And it's no accident that we're releasing this now with this quarterly look, so that you can get started in November and have a year to build into the next so critical election cycle. So what I can say also is that I think I speak for both of us and a lot of us activists here in Midland. We wish we had this when we started doing this work. And as far as we can tell, there's nothing exactly like this that exists, right? That really starts to break down, like, what does it mean at the local level? All under the premise that local is the most powerful place where you have influence as an individual, and you can start to build things locally that will shape your region, shape your state, shape our whole country. And in fact, when we were sharing some prototypes of this blueprint around to some other activists, both in Midland and outside of Midland, a lot of times we heard, man, I wish I had this thing back then, right? It really, really helps. Could have really helped. The other thing I'll say is, like, the genesis of a lot of this is the fact that we did so much in Midland. Like, I can't say it enough. We literally reliably now vote blue on almost every level. And, just a couple of years ago, we were voting red on everything, right? So we've literally flipped our city. and it's this is just really important work to be able to share out to everybody, because you can totally do it too. You can totally do it too.
Yes.
So yeah, so once you download this puppy, you'll start to see some cool stuff. You'll get a little preamble and at the top, and then it just really dives right into these five tools or steps for building blue power. So I'll give an overview of the five, and then we'll take some podcasts over the next couple of months to really dig into each one.
Yeah.
So I'll do the first one. Jennifer, maybe you can take it over with the second one. But the first one is all about relationships, right? So the title is It's Time to Take Your Relationships from Transactional to Transformational. That's the one we're going to dive into as soon as we'll circle back to that at the end. Jennifer, what's the second one?
And then number 2 is about understanding and navigating community power structures. That's like I said, we'll dive into that in another one, but it's just kind of talking about how to navigate those things, to think about, ways to consider it.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about number 3 then?
I'll get to number 3. So number 3 is about being present, and how do you figure out how to show up in your community in a way that is real and not contrived. So that's number 3.
Yeah, being authentic.
Yeah.
Number 4 is nuts and bolts. That's about tools, specific tools that you're going to use, computer programs, social media, different organizations, ways to organize things to do the best work you can.
Yeah. And number 5 is my favorite. Number 5 is about movement mindsets. So while you're doing this work, how do you create your own mindsets that are really, really real and true to your community and to the folks that you're doing this work with? And how do you hold on to them and make sure that they really shape all the work that you're doing, so you have a North Star to focus on? Yeah.
And then that last page, like we had said, is the year 1 timeline. And you know what? We broke this out in quarters and a year timeline to make it be a little less daunting to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I got to do all this right away. No, you can break it out. Now, if you are a go-getter and you want to just get moving, and that's fine. You don't have to follow the timeline, but it's a good way to kind of break that down. So what we did was we talked about in quarter 1, you're going to do this for transformational relationships and this for navigating power structure. So there's ideas for all of those 5 different steps to do in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4.
Totally. Yeah. And that's where the real tactical stuff comes into play. So we set some goals for you to start to think about, holding 15 or so of a specific conversation, or really creating a certain space to do a certain activity that can really have being goal oriented and goal centered can really help make sure that you and the people that you're working with are going to stay on track to do this works really, really well.
Yeah, and like we said, it's on our website, and there's actually a lot on our website. I mean, there's information about who we are and what we've done. I actually am going to be working on it tomorrow because I still have some things to add, but it'll be there. It'll be great. I'm super excited for everybody to see it. We're going to have charts because we love charts.
We love the charts.
Yeah. But yeah, there's going to be the receipts for what we've done and how we did it. And you're just it's going to be a good way to, I guess, develop some trust in us. I hope, you're listening to us on this podcast, but a lot of you don't really know who we are. But we have done this work with a whole lot of other people, but we've done it and we want to share it.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I like to say is we've moved the needle in so many ways here, and Midland should be held up as an example for other communities to follow. And just to be honest, if we had waited for the Democratic Party to notice what we've done and come to us and said, hey, can we kind of through normal party channels, get some insights and start to teach other communities, we would still be waiting, right? And so, we're a, go big or go home kind of duo here. And we just decided, all of these efforts are because we're just not waiting anymore. We're not waiting anymore for the traditional Democratic Party to come in and ask us how we're doing all this.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel, it's not like we're the only ones doing this work. I know that there are people out there in communities just like ours doing probably, like, if you're already an activist or an organizer, you're going to look in this and be like, I'm doing this, this, and this.
Totally.
But there's going to be things you're not doing. Even when we talked to the Tuscola Dems several weeks ago, they were, we could see the things that they were doing to build blue power. So it's not, we're not coming in here telling you what to do. We're just giving you some ideas. And it might be a case of like, that for sure is not going to work in my community. I challenge you to try it, but you're going to have to tailor it to what's going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we're creating space on our website for other folks to like talk about what they're doing so that we can learn from each other. Yeah.
Please, please, please. We have it's called the message board page. And you can submit preferably short, just examples of this is what we're doing to build blue power, or this is the change that we made in our community, whatever. Like, send me your charts. I'm cool with that too. I just would really love to be able to put that up there so that everybody can see it. We need to be working with all of us, or we're not going to get anywhere.
Absolutely.
At the grassroots local level.
Absolutely. And that's our theory of change, right? Like really empowering local organizations and activists with whatever tools we can impart, because we believe that will change communities and regions and states and all of the things.
Yeah.
So to just like kind of take a bit of a, shallow dive into step number 1 for today, and we'll pick this back up again in a future pod. Step number 1 is all about relationships, right? So step number 1 in this blueprint to building blue power is all about relationships, and kind of shifting the way that you view relationships from what I call transactional to transformational, right? What we mean by transactional is what it seems like, and we've talked about this a little bit in other pods, what it seems like happens kind of leading up to elections and during election campaign cycles, is that that's when folks start to look around and they just ask for specific things from individuals. And if you can't provide those specific things, then you're not really like engaged with again, unless it's to ask for money or whatever. Part of what we've been able to do here in Midland is build really transformational like coalitions of people, because we know each other's best magic, right? Yeah. Understanding each other and how you relate to each other, and how each one of us has something that they can give, right? So it's not just about like, you got a phone bank or nothing. If the thing that you like is, having craft nights, well, how do we do that, right? Yeah. So that's really what it's about, and trying to kind of provide some tactical examples of that concept of switching from being transactional to being transformational as you're relating to individuals in your community. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of, some of that's about, stopping at a door to talk to somebody and having a short conversation. Maybe you get the vote, maybe you don't. It does help. Door knocking is important. Talking one-on-one, whether through the phone or, to a person at their door, those are all important things. But those are transactional. And they can become transformational. We've for sure had people that were like, oh, tell me more. Oh, maybe I want to volunteer. Can I help with this? Those can become more transformational relationships. But you really want to find ways that you're investing in people and who they are and not just what they can do for
Yeah,
you, that's a super important part of it.
totally. And this shows up a lot in fundraising, right? So like, you know, you might have a candidate who does call time, right, in fundraising, which is literally cold calling strangers on a list of people who are Democrats and asking them for a $50 check. That's
Hmm.
essentially what cold calling is. Might be a bigger check, might be a smaller check, but it's a check, and it's probably the first time they've ever talked to you. It might be the last, probably not though. If you give once, you're gonna get more calls. Um, but having a more transformational relationship when it comes to fundraising for candidates and for local parties and local activist groups is bringing people in to the work that you're all doing together, right? So then it's not just like, hey, out of the blue, can you donate $50 to me? And let me just give you my, 30-second spiel, and hopefully that's convincing enough. It's more like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And I really
Hmm.
think that you and your skills and your best magic can be a big part of that. And part of that can be, doing XYZ thing because you love to do it. And part of that can be donating to this cause that we all believe in as much as you can now, and then maybe some more later. And really kind of focusing on like bringing people in and saying like, we are building this thing together, not
Hmm.
I need your check for $50.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's a really important part is not just, hey, here are my values and this is what I think. That those are I statements. You need to be like, what are your values and what do you want to see done through government? Because
yeah,
chances are good, like you're going to have a lot of common ground, but you need to know that. You need to know what that particular voter
yeah,
or that organizer or volunteer or whatever, the things that they're interested in. And then you can also help direct them towards that particular thing. I can think of specific people in our organization that are very climate focused.
yep,
So they're the ones that we would choose to talk about climate or,
yeah,
do an action on climate.
yeah.
And then there's others that are super focused on voting rights. They're the
That's right.
ones we would go to for voting rights information.
And we know that about them because our relationships are not transactional, right?
Hmm.
We know who that is. And I'll just tell a quick story. So when I was running for state representative in 2018, was invited to go down to Lansing, Michigan, which is the capital of Michigan, and um, just kind of meet with some people, right? So like meet with the head of this union and meet with this lobbying group or whatever. Just meet with people. And what a current state rep was kind of like like showing me around and introducing me in all these different offices. And I had my campaign manager with me, and I had made a conscious decision to switch my language from I to we in the very beginning of the
Hmm.
campaign. Like, we're doing this, we're building
Yeah,
this, we've been able to raise XYZ, we've been able to knock on XYZ doors.
because
We
no candidate does it
Oh,
alone.
for sure, no. Um, and when I was down in Lansing speaking with, having these conversations with different, folks down in Lansing, we got in the elevator with that state rep, and he said something to me like, with my campaign manager in the elevator with us, and he said, Sarah, I think you're doing great, but like, make sure people know what you're doing, not what like you keep saying we all the time. Make sure
Hmm.
people know what you're doing. And I just looked at him. I said, no, it's all we. Like, I'm just
Yeah,
like the person whose name is on the ballot. And this guy who's next to me in this elevator is doing more work than I am on any given day.
yeah.
And so I'm not taking credit for that. And, a
Hmm.
leader should not, right?
Yep.
And so it's it's that kind of thing that really kind of like it creates this or deepens the relationships that you have locally to know that like this is not just like this candidate who's on an ego trip. This is a whole movement that we get to join
Hmm.
and be a part of. Yeah.
And I will say, like with your campaign, I think a lot of people really, you were, I know you don't want to admit this or hear this or whatever, but you were a very driving point. People were there not just because of the mission but because of you. There was a big part of it that was you. But you also made them feel like they were part of the mission. And
Yeah.
no matter what whether you're talking about a candidate, whether you're talking about an organization, an issue, you're building blue power, it's got to be a we. It's got to be a group,
Has
a
to be.
community.
Yeah.
And you can't take everything on yourself. You have to share ownership, because if it's all about you, then you're not building blue power.
Yeah.
You're building you. So
Yeah. For
it's got to be
sure.
a we.
And it's not going to last past, it's
Yes.
not going to probably win, and it's probably not going to last, even if it
Yeah.
does, if you can't build a movement and change your relationships to be less transactional and more transformational. From a tactical perspective, once you take a look at the blueprint and download it from our website, you'll see under building transformational relationships, some things that we're like offering up, right? That are very tactical ideas that you can do per quarter in this space. So I won't read them all, but things like hosting one-on-one, like identifying local political leaders and having one-on-one meetings with them, right? Making sure that you have identified like what your community, like what are those shared values, and who are the people in the community that are representative of those different shared values that go really deep in certain spaces. Like map out your relationships and make sure to celebrate wins, and deepen the work that the community is doing overall. Just some like highlights around this particular step, and what could be focused on per quarter.
Yeah, and there's on that specific, so that's the timeline Sarah was talking about. On the number one, the first step, the transactional to transformational, there's also do's and don'ts. There's
Yeah.
kind of an outline of what we are talking about. And then at the bottom, there's do's and don'ts of like, do meet people where they are. This is my favorite one because we kind of we did this one and we like worded it one way and then I added something and then we changed something and then, but it's just meet people where they are, which is one of I hate that phrase. I don't know why, but I think because every overused phrase becomes meaningless.
Yeah, I
So
guess.
we made it meaningful.
Yeah.
Because we asked and said, and ask about their values and passions. It's not just meet them where they are, find out what they care about, but have a vision for where you want to take them. I think that's the part that politicians miss the most.
Yeah, for sure. Like tactically, you might meet somebody who is very personable and is a great in conversation. And you might think, man, this person could be amazing out canvassing. And you mention it to them, and like so many people, they don't want to do that, right? They're just
Nobody
like
wants to do that.
nervous about that. Yeah, let's face it, canvassing is fun for only 3 people that I know. At first,
and they're
at
very
least.
weird. No. Just kidding. We
First,
love them.
at least. but there are gateway opportunities that then can elevate people's skill sets. So maybe that person, you say to them, okay, totally get it, canvassing, like that feels like a step too far, but we're going to have an event next week where our office is opening and we're going to have an open house. If you could be there and just make it your job to kind of go around and just start conversations and just ask people why they showed up, right? And if people are given those kinds of jobs, they will feel very seen, right? Like you could say to them, you're so personable, like could you please have this be your job? And they'll feel very seen, and they will do the job really well, and you follow up with them later, and then you can push for a little bit more. Maybe it's phone banking next time. Maybe it's just like, can you just get out on the doors with a partner and just see what it is, right? But if we only have transactional relationships with people, we just like kind of just yap at them from 3-4 floors up and say, would you like to canvass? And they're like, no. And you're like, okay, fine, then you're dead to me. And that's a transactional relationship that is not leveraged in any way. So
yeah, we've talked about this before too, but like one of the things I have the most problem with when we have organizers from out of town come in whose job it is to try to get people to canvass door to door, do phone banking or whatever it is. they're taught to use pressure tactics. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they're just there to meet. I know that the people do have passion for what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. Like, I totally get that. But they're given a quota. We need X number of people on the doors. We need X number of doors next. We need X number of phone calls made. So they're operating from a numbers standpoint. We think people should operate more from a people standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done, and we've made change. Sure, maybe that's anecdotal. I don't know, but it worked.
It worked here, and that's the whole point. And those numbers are process goals that may or may not work, right? If you hit you could hit all your process goals. I had 50 phone calls today. Well, how much money did you raise? None. But I hit all my process goals. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
But like, clearly something's wrong in whatever's going on if you're not hitting actual fundraising goals. I would personally rather focus on outcome goals. You need to raise $10,000 today. You need to get, 10 people to commit to voting for XYZ initiative or whatever. Those are outcome goals, not process goals, not just you talk to this number of people, you filled out this number of, whatever. Cool. Okay. So that is our big announcement today. And that we're going to be launching this whole blue book, which we've been talking about for months, weeks and months. And that's step 1, which is all about relationships. So I'd love us to end with a real quick icebreaker. I've got one, unless you've got one, Jennifer, that you're
I did not think of one, no.
Okay. Would you rather, here it is, would you rather have the power to fly or the power to be invisible? Like the superpower. If you're like going to change into a like a superhero tomorrow, and you could pick your superpower, and you got 2 options. You could fly or you could be invisible.
Say fly. And I think that was the thing, like growing up, I wanted to be able to fly as a superpower. Invisible sounds cool because like that would be great for a spy. I'm going to stick with my fly, even though I definitely see the advantages, especially now that I'm into politics,
right?
to be invisible.
To be invisible and to be able to be in the room where it happens, right? As they say. I'm going to pick fly too. I just, I love to travel and just be in different areas of the world and see different things and experience different cultures. And if there was a superpower that would allow me to do that more and faster, I would totally pick that one. So
that was my favorite dream as a little kid, is flying. And then you'd wake up and, is that real? That stinks.
Right.
I was flying.
Reality sets in. Fun. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. Please definitely go to our website. Jennifer, what's the website again?
beyondresistancepod.com. You can also find our podcast on there where you can get it. You can find all of our socials, all sorts of information. Probably going to have a funding page in the near future. We're working on that. Going to have some more graphics and details and lots of interesting things on there. And please, 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 please give us your stories for what you or you and a group of people, and be specific if you can. I literally, we marched in this parade and wore unicorn outfits. I don't know, whatever. Give me the thing that you guys are doing to build blue power. Even if you think it's not doing anything, trust me, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for engaging with us. And again, this is the Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power and red communities and start winning. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.